How's it going, everybody? My name is Brody, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a semi-transparent Steven Universe shield. Now, before I get started, I want to point out that I made quite a few errors while making this shield, so if you follow my instructions rather than exactly what I'm doing in the footage, hopefully your shield should turn out a lot better than mine did. It's not too bad, but it could be better. Now to get started, these are the supplies that I used in making this shield. I got most of them from either like a Hobby Lobby, a Home Depot, or just like on Amazon. It does cost about $150 to get all these things together. And in addition to these things, I do also have a large metallic sled. It's one of those sort of circle sleds. You can get one on Amazon for like 30 bucks, but I happen to have one already. It's kind of beat up, but you know, it did the job. Now my first step is I traced around my big shield and I drew out sort of a concept of exactly what I wanted the shield to look like, sort of figure out the spacing and the sizing of everything. Next I traced that same circle onto a large sheet of acrylic and then sort of drill that out of it. So I have one big clear circle of acrylic. After I get it all the way cut out, I clean up the edges, make sure it's nice and smooth, no sort of sharp pieces to catch on me while I'm making the rest of it. Now, my first attempt didn't work. This is no good. I tried to use a heat gun to bend the acrylic around the metal sled, but unfortunately I couldn't heat up enough of the acrylic at one time to bend it, so that doesn't work a lot. And plus, it creates a whole bunch of gnarly bubbles in it that just don't look good. It turned out pretty bad. So from a little bit of research, I figured out that the best way to heat up the acrylic is actually with a large oven. I don't have an oven big enough to do that, so I actually used my stovetop, and I heated up in sort of large, maybe 1/8 sections, and then bent it over the shield. This is rather time consuming and very hot, so if you're gonna do this, be prepared. It's tedious. It's a tedious thing to do. Also, doing it this way does make it sort of a little wobbly. So if you want the best outcome for your shield, I would recommend trying to find somewhere that has a large enough oven. I don't know if most places will let you, or if you just happen to have one big enough, that'll probably do it. I had to cut a piece on the corner to make the circle sort of finish out. Hopefully, if you use a big oven, it won't have to do that, because that does create a sort of structural integrity problem later on. Up next, I wanted to make the second layer of the shield, which is the internal sort of spiral pattern in the outer rim. So the way I'm setting up my shield is I have 3 distinct layers. The bottom layer is the main sort of pink part of the shield. The second layer is the outer ring along with the sort of spiral vine pattern. And then the third top layer is another outer ring to sort of separate it from the other 2 layers. I do make this circle a little bit smaller in diameter because as it bent around this sort of shield shape, it did shrink a small amount. Again, I use the same process. It works actually a lot better with this sort of thin strip. And I actually use the heat gun for the internal parts because holding that became a challenge. But I think it's not impossible, it's just, you know, a lot more difficult without the heat gun. After I got all the pieces bent in the right shape, I reheated them again together so that way all their sort of bumps and bends would be in the same place at least. Up next, I paint the inner spiral with a clear white, that way it sort of has a transparent coat to it. And then the base shield, that nice clear pink. Now when I did this, I put a bit too much pink on there, so I would recommend putting something maybe white underneath it so you can see just how clear it is, because mine is not as clear as I wanted it to be. After that, do the outer ring in blue, and once you assemble it, that should be pretty much the shield. You just need some little details after that. As you can see, the colors look honestly pretty good. I did mess some things up later on, but at this stage, it's looking phenomenal, honestly. Genuinely looking great. I use the clear Gorilla Glue to attach the multiple layers to one another. Up next, I made a small stencil for the inner sort of rose pattern. I used 3 different shades of pink spray paint and sort of just went over each one again and again, but technically you only really need 2. You need a dark one and a light one, and then you can make the middle one by mixing those 2. I wanted to use 3 specific colors because I thought it would look sort of cleaner, though I did still end up mixing them a little bit. Up next, I wanted to clean up the edges. They didn't quite line up perfectly, so I'm just sort of sawing off all the extra bits that stick out and sort of sanding the edge to make it a lot smoother overall. Up next, the handle. I wanted to make a clear handle, so that way with the transparent shield you wouldn't actually be able to see my hand through to the other side. I wanted to make the hand grip a bit thicker, so I tripled up the layers so it has a nice thick grip. I'm going to sand down those edges later so they're not quite as sharp on the hand. Again, it's the same clear Gorilla Glue. Just let it dry and you're good. Next up, the armband. So if you use the same heating technique as earlier, get something roughly the size of your arm. You don't want to use your actual arm because it's very hot. The shape you're aiming for is sort of a horseshoe with 2 little pieces sticking out that you can glue on, like this. I did the same bending, of course, with the handle and then with the arm part. I will again use the same Gorilla Glue to attach those, and honestly, that's pretty much where you should stop. However, that's not where I stopped. I wanted to take it a step further. I thought it would be cool to use sort of clear casting resin to sort of unite the entire shield to one piece. This was a bad idea! Don't do this! It caused so many issues. Number 1, it took like 5 days to dry because I guess I mixed it wrong. Number 2, it pulled up a bunch of the paint and caused like that inner ring to lose a lot of its contrast. So just stop at the previous step. This isn't necessary. You don't need this. It was dumb and I shouldn't have done it. But all in all, that should be the completed shield. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like it down below. Maybe leave a comment. Tell me if you had any better experiences. I don't know. Do the YouTube thing. Subscribe. Do the stuff. Thanks for watching.